Tonight in the Tar Heel State, a rivalry as fierce as any battle fought on the courts of legends pulses through the veins of college basketball. And inside the narrow and claustrophobic walls of Cameron Indoor, the excitement and belief amongst the Cameron Crazies is palpable as they believe they have what it takes to win it all this year with Cooper Flagg and company for the first time in a decade. But first, they got to take care of their pesky neighbor down Tobacco Road. Alongside Harry Lyles Jr., I'm Sam Ravech. Welcome to Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. Lyles, this is the game. We're going to talk to Jay Will in just a bit. He obviously played in many of these, but there's just something more about it. So when you hear Duke, North Carolina, what's the first thing that kind of jumps into your head?
Gosh, just greatness. I mean, whether it is between moments or players. I mean, college basketball and some of the greatest memories that you and I and everybody else have of this game involves this rivalry. And usually the guys from this rivalry go on to be some of the best NBA players that we've ever seen. So obviously tonight is one of the first steps for a lot of people, like a Cooper Flagg, right? Tonight I am looking forward to seeing how he cements himself into this rivalry.
Legacies are made and sometimes broken in these games as well. We got a great show for you over the next 30 minutes. One of the greatest Duke Blue Devils that ever set foot in Durham, North Carolina will join the show. Of course, we're talking about Ken Jeong. He will be on the show. Jay Will, obviously a great Duke player in his own right. He will join us as well. But we start with Andraya Carter, who is inside Cameron Indoor. Andre, it is one of the best games of the year in one of the best atmospheres in college basketball. What is the scene like inside Cameron this morning?
It's incredible, just like the scene would be for a Duke basketball game. The Cameron Crazies are ready. I already went into the crowd. They had their hands like this. They were going absolutely berserk, already excited for this game. People are lined up down the sidewalk into the parking lot, waiting to continue to get in here. So it's exactly what you would expect before Duke, North Carolina. This type of crowd, these type of Cameron Crazies. I got a warm welcome here too. I really appreciated that. So it's been perfect. 10 out of 10.
We love that, Andre. And you know, every single game in this rivalry is a new chapter. What are you looking forward to the most tonight as we have a new chapter in this rivalry?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I was looking, and I think Duke has won 51 out of the last 100 meetings. They're almost split evenly when it comes to these two teams matching up. For me, Harry, I'm in alignment with you and watching Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is so good. He is so talented. And my favorite thing is when he goes into takeover mode. If I could have everything go perfectly, I would have a close game, and then I would have us be able to watch Cooper Flagg go into that mode where he is unstoppable. Electric plays, and even for North Carolina, they're mostly dependent on their guards. So imagine electric plays made by their guards, step back threes, getting to the paint, drive and dish. Their guards are the true story. So what are North Carolina guards going to do in this crowd with these people antagonizing them all day long? And what is Cooper Flagg going to do? That's what I want to see.
Oh, it is going to be must-watch TV. Duke, North Carolina, 6:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Dre, we'll let you get back to work. College Game Day coming up in just a matter of moments. Thank you, Dre.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so obviously what comes with Duke, North Carolina, expensive tickets. This is nothing new. You go back to 22, it was $5,000 to get in the door. That is insane. This year, it's about $1,600 to walk your way into Cameron Indoor and see some history as well. And obviously, Lyles, Duke, North Carolina going to lead the way in terms of the narrative today, but there actually is a lot more basketball going on, despite what the folks in North Carolina will say. So let's get a look at some of our Saturday storylines here as we go and start in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Mark Sears in Alabama, this was a guy that was a preseason favorite to win Player of the Year after taking the team to the Final Four last year. And he just hasn't been the same player on both ends of the floor this year. So much so that his head coach, Nate Oates, actually benched him in the LSU game last weekend. He came back out on fire in the midweek against Mississippi State. But if they're going to make another run to the Final Four, they need him to be that Player of the Year candidate type player down the stretch, right?
Absolutely. It feels like a lot of the things that we're saying about this Alabama team this year are similar to that of last year. He has to be the best player on the floor if they are going to win a national championship. And Joe Lunardi has them on the one line right now. That's not going to matter a whole lot if Mark Sears does not look like the Mark Sears that they need. His last game, he had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That's the first time he's done that all season. And when you look at a lot of his numbers, they're basically back down to what he had his sophomore season. And so you have to hope that, I had read about Nate Oates obviously benching him.
Yeah.
And what he has done that he'd gotten in previous stops was like, hey, we're going to have our players rate how everybody does in practice. And he said Mark Sears has ranked among the highest since that's happened. So you have to hope that again, it could be a confidence thing. Who knows? There could be other things going on in his life that we don't know about. But you've got to hope that sparks something in him so he looks like the player that we all know that he can be.
He turned it back on Wednesday. It's one of those things you need to see it continue, right? You don't want to see it fade away because as Mark Sears goes, so too does this Alabama team. All right, there's going to be much better games to watch today, but there may be no better storyline than Coach Cal going back to Rupp Arena for the first time since he left for Arkansas after spending 15 years as the head coach. The Wildcats took him to numerous Final Fours, a national championship as well. Lyles, what do you think it's going to sound like inside Rupp today? But more importantly, how do you think it should sound?
I saw Rick Pitino obviously say that he would hope that everybody in Lexington would give him a round of applause and all this. I felt like that was a lot of projecting by Coach Pitino. Because he recently got his sort of, finally welcome back, right? Like they don't hate his guts anymore. That's not going to happen tonight. Like he is going to hear rip-roaring boos because for a number of different reasons, right? One, his relationship, and a lot of people in Lexington would tell you this, his relationship with the fan base was rocky for most of his tenure there. Even when things were going good, a lot of people did not like the way that he spoke to the fans. Two, the way that he left, right? Because we had the whole, interview with him, or not interview, but Mitch Barnhart and them talking about, hey, he's safe, he's going to be here, he's going to be the head coach of this program. Then he leaves. Then he takes everybody with him, players, coaches, whatever. They're having the year that they're having, and Kentucky's having the year that they're having. The Big Blue Nation is going to let him know, buddy, we think you messed up. We didn't need you. We're better off. We've got a hot new girlfriend in Mark Pope, right? Like that's what it's going to be.
Right. If Arkansas was better, I kind of wonder if he would have gotten a worse response. I wonder if because they're struggling so much.
Oh, yeah.
If that plays a factor into it, and maybe the fans at Rupp Arena give him a better ovation. I don't know. We'll see. I know that he's done also some incredible things there. What you do talk about the floods that happened in Kentucky. Like he helped raise a ton of money. So I don't know. Fans won't listen to us, Lyles, but I think he should get if I were a fan of Kentucky, I would give him like a.
Yeah, well, you're a kind person.
Well, and
that's not to say that the fans of Kentucky aren't. I'm not saying that. I do think, though, there will come a day, right? Same with Coach Pitino, where he will be able to come back and they will celebrate what he did for that program because it truly was legendary. Like when we talk about 2010s college basketball, you think about Kentucky, you think about one and dones, and they set the standard for the rest of the sport.
Kentucky and Mark Pope have certainly been one of the best stories in college basketball this year, but maybe the best one is actually 80 miles east on I-65 and Louisville, Kentucky, because Louisville, Lyles, is back. I mean, they seemingly are like finding their groove right now after they were dead in the water the last 2 years. They were 5-35 under the previous administration there. And then Pat Kelsey comes in. He's got the Birds at 9-1 in ACC play. They're riding a 10-game winning streak. What's impressed you most about this turnaround for Louisville this year?
It's a combination of things. One, the fact that the turnaround had to be as dramatic as it's been. I mean, they have an opportunity to win 11 games in a row for the first time in over 10 years.
Crazy.
Right? I mean, so that in and of itself is crazy. But I mean, like Kenny Payne, I believe he won 4 games his first year and 8 last year. Like 12 games at Louisville. Like, I'm from Southern Indiana. We all know that. It's been established. The idea that Louisville basketball could be that bad is incomprehensible to me. It genuinely is. Like, and this is even a program for me that, obviously the blue blood debate, and we'll have this later on in the show, like that's a program to me that comes up often.
Right.
Not just because of championships, but because of players that they put in the NBA and just some, NCAA tournament legends. So to watch this turnaround has been great because I do think college basketball is better when a program like Louisville is sustaining their success.
Hat tip to Matt Norlander, too, at CBS Sports. He wrote a great article this week about the turnaround for Pat Kelsey and how he said basically, like, you don't need a full year to turn things around or multiple years to turn a program around. Kelsey said he only needed 3 weeks to get this thing going. And also credit to Louisville. They're doing it with a lot of players they didn't expect that they would have to use this year. A lot of players were injured. And actually, the last time they lost was to that Kentucky team back in mid-December as well. So Pat Kelsey has got that thing going. We'll see what Louisville does at Georgia Tech later today. Lyles. But let's take it full circle here and bring it back to the Duke North Carolina conversation. And we're going to talk to Jay Will in just a second. And you talk about Cooper Flagg and the legacy that he has built at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he needs to do today to actually cement himself as that legend in a Duke uniform?
Got to win the game, right?
Number
like
one, right?
You gotta beat North, especially at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing if you lose on the road. Got to protect Cameron Indoor. I think something that was interesting. I was watching PTI yesterday, and they had Jay Billis on, and he was talking about how Cooper Flagg has the competitive fire that Christian Laettner had. And I feel like, again, they're obviously very different players. I mean, Cooper Flagg, Jay Will has talked about it on numerous platforms. We're going to talk to him later, but he has talked about Cooper Flagg being one of the most talented freshmen that Duke has ever seen. And I think because of that, you'd have to say he's one of the most talented freshmen of all time, right? And so I think it starts tonight by cementing yourself. I have been thinking a lot about Austin Rivers and his shot, right? Because he was also a freshman at that time. I don't know that it's going to take that type of dramatics tonight in this particular game. I think Duke's going to win this pretty handily, but I think you have to see some legendary stuff from Cooper Flagg, and I think that we ultimately will as well.
And you are remembered by how you play in these games. You and I are both involved in college football as well, so you talk about the rivalries like the Red River, right? Obviously, Michigan, Ohio State. You are remembered for how you play in those games, and Cooper Flagg will certainly be remembered for how he plays in this one. All right, let's get to our magic moments covered by State Farm. We're going to go through the top 5 upsets in this infamous UNC-Duke series, and we start back in 2003. Duke was getting 7 in a hook in this game. Freshman Rashad McCants had 26. Raymond Felton put up 18, 10 assists, 8 rebounds. They would knock off Duke. They snapped a 6-game winning streak in the rivalry, but things would turn a little bit down the stretch because Roy Williams would actually be hired the very next year. So
look at all the fabric on those jerseys. Look at that, too, by the way. We're kind of trending back to that.
Throwback. I like it too. I'm seeing some baggier shorts.
100%. I think I might have to join the trend, even though I've just recently, and obviously Joe G's shout out is also part of Shorts gang. But the tide's turning back.
That's right. That's right. It is.
Let's go back to February 2016. Duke beating North Carolina by a 1-point margin. Grayson Allen led Duke with 23 points, while freshman Brandon Ingram had 20 points and 10 rebounds for the defending national champions. The Tar Heels went on to make the national title game that season, losing to Villanova on a buzzer beater. UNC won it all the following year.
The next year they did, that was a good one. Grayson Allen, probably, we talked about it earlier, one of the more disliked Duke players. This was the epic shoe blowout game for Zion Williamson back in 2019. Duke was favored by almost 10 points in this game, but North Carolina stormed back. They won at 88-72. Duke would also lose the meeting at Chapel Hill, but got revenge in the ACC tournament semifinals en route to earning the #1 overall seed. And as our producer Shelby put, Duke would eventually lose to Michigan State in the Elite Eight that year.
Legendary stuff. I'm blowing a tire. Let's go back. R.J. Davis, man, been playing for a minute and a half. 2022, he was one of the 4 20-point scorers for the Tar Heels as they upset Duke in Coach K's final home game. And Hubert Davis's first trip to Cameron Indoor Stadium as UNC's head coach. The teams met again in the Final Four, with UNC winning 81-77 in Coach K's final game as Duke head coach saying, I don't think that there could be a more iconic or memorable moment.
We were talking about that before the show. For us, I think that's what we remember. For a lot of people, though, they go back to 2001. This was, statistically speaking, probably one of the bigger point spread differences in this rivalry that ended in an upset. Mike Dunleavy hit the game-tying 3, as you just saw there. Shane Battier fouled Brendan Haywood, 1.2 seconds left. Haywood made both free throws. Duke would, however, go on to win the national title that season with Jay Williams as the leading scorer. And we will talk to Jay Will in just a second. So the precedent is there, Lyles. Like the upsets do happen, although this UNC team has their struggles, and those have been well documented. Every single game, essentially, they go in, they are undersized, and that has been a massive problem for them this year. They will be undersized again, but let's give some Tar Heel fans some hope here on this show. What's the script for them to complete in the upset tonight?
I think it's 3 simple things. One is you control the pace of the game. I think in any basketball game that's big, but UNC is 20th in adjusted tempo, whereas Duke is, I believe, 254th. So basically, they're getting many, many more possessions per 40 minutes than Duke is. They play at a faster pace. Duke is one of the best defensive teams in the country, 3rd in adjusted defensive efficiency. If you are North Carolina, the best defense against that, you're not going to stop Duke from playing good defense. You've got to crash the glass. And then the third thing, RJ Davis, you got to be the best player on the floor tonight, man. You got to be better than Cooper Flagg. You got to be better than everybody else. And then he has to have a running mate. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Elliot Cadeau? He hasn't been the player or taken the leap that we thought he was going to take, or could it be Ian Jackson? So RJ Davis, you got to be the best player on the floor. Somebody else on that team, you've got to step up.
Those were your magic moments covered by State Farm. And we are now going to be joined by actor, Duke alum, who recently received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and of course, esteemed judge on The Masked Singer, Ken Jeong. Ken, thank you so much for joining us. Like, is there a ritual that you guys have? We know obviously you went to Duke, big Duke fan. Do you wear like some special pajamas the night before? Do you put a spoon under the pillow? Like what goes on? Is there any rituals here getting ready for the game?
No, I don't have rituals, but whenever I go to Duke or whenever I go to games, I do wear my lucky Duke jacket here. So, and I'm wearing it right now because this is the most important game of the season for us. It always is. Carolina Duke. I love your analyses, guys. It is, no matter what the rankings are, it doesn't matter if someone's number 2 or number 100, man. Carolina Duke is always the biggest game of the year for us and for Carolina for that matter.
Ken, obviously you're a Duke alum, whether it was when you were there or even going back and visiting. What is a Duke basketball memory that stands out for you and one that you hold close to your heart, perhaps one that you always tell at dinner?
Actually, I even told Coach K this. I was like, I think the second class to camp out before the Carolina game. So my first game I ever went to as a kid was in 1986. It was Carolina Duke. This was back in the J.R. Reed days, even when Kenny Smith was a senior. And that was my first game I'd ever went to at Duke. And the energy is just electric. It's just unlike anything I've ever been to. And I've been to several NBA games. I've been to Super Bowls. I've been to World Series. But nothing beats. Oh, gosh.
We got the highlights here, Ken.
Look how bored Coach K. You talked to Jay Williams about that. See, Jay Williams trolled me. He just said Coach K couldn't be more bored of you right there. So that's what Jay had told. You talked to Jay. It was that was back in November at the Duke Kansas game at the T-Mobile Arena in Kansas. So I got to see this team live, and this team live, it is, I think it's the best Duke team easily in the last decade. Cooper Flagg is everything you think he is. He's a two-way player, incredible on offense, obviously, great decision maker, great passer, but his defense is so outstanding. He leads the team in offense and defense. And if you see Duke, even when they've lost, it's never been a blowout. They keep everything competitive. You know, that Kansas game was in many ways a turnaround game for them because even though they lost, they were so resilient. And I was there watching them. Like, this team never quits, and it's because of Cooper Flagg and his decision making. He just turned 18,
right?
And
right.
It's honestly, it's breathtaking to watch. Even if, and this sounds crazy, but even if I wasn't a Duke fan, I'd be watching Duke basketball every week because of this team that Jon Scheyer has assembled, and Cooper Flagg is at the top of that team. They have done everything right. They play basketball the right way, as they say.
It is a great point, Ken, because obviously Cooper Flagg is the star of the show, but like, they're starting 3 freshmen like that. As you know, that's very abnormal for a Duke program. Going back to Coach K, like, obviously he liked freshmen, but he had very senior-led teams. I want to ask you about this, too, because I know you obviously went to Duke, but we know you got the UNC ties as well. You went to North Carolina for med school. So how does that work? Like, do you switch jerseys halfway through, or how do you do?
Honestly, it doesn't matter because, even though I went to I always joke, I went to Carolina. No, take that Carolina thing off, ESPN. How dare you, ESPN? How dare you? Some sort of college game day prank. No, let's just take that away. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. I went to Carolina Med School, which is exactly the reason why I became a comedian. Shots fired. I said it. So yes, I said it. Everyone knows where my loyalty lies. I was in the I Hate Christian Laettner documentary, pro Christian Laettner. So that pretty much, even just take that UNC out of there, out of that crawl on the lower left screen. Just say Duke. So in the final edit, on the YouTube page. I want that Carolina crawl out of there. So it basically it just shows you where your true colors lie. When I went to UNC Med School, I was such an obnoxious Duke fan. We would park at the Dean Dome to go to Carolina Med School. I had a dark blue Mustang at that time with Duke bumper stickers, and I had the Duke sweatpants with Duke on my butt, and I would wear it very proudly. I did not care. I was young and stupid. Yeah, I did not care. I wore my Duke stuff around Chapel Hill all the time.
I need to get a pair of those.
Which is why I became a comedian.
Yeah, yeah. I need to rock a pair of those. You said it's got Duke on the butt. I'm there.
All in for that.
I'm there.
Yeah, it's old school. It's vintage. It's vintage Duke on the butt sweat.
Ken, obviously one of people's favorite movies that you were in was The Hangover. Who is in your Duke basketball Wolfpack? Can you recast the movie with some of your favorite players?
Oh, great question. Gosh, there's so many. Okay. Christian Laettner, obviously.
Yep.
Grant Hill, who, by the way, they talk about comparisons to Christian Laettner. I say Cooper Flagg is also, he has that point forward of a mentality of a Grant Hill. So to me, I see a lot of Grant Hill. Oh gosh, there's so many players from that 91-92 team. So I'll try not to say too many of those. I'll go with Johnny Dawkins of the 86 team. Okay, because he deserves so much credit, and I'll do many players, even more than 4. I'll just do from different eras. Jay Williams, that miracle minute against Maryland. Yes. Come on, it just you don't get that national champ without Jay Williams, because they had to play Maryland in the Final Four. They were down by like over 20 points, and they came back because of that confidence that Jay Williams had. I'm not just saying that to Jay. I'm actually hoping Jay will say something nice to me about me now that I'm quoting his miracle minute. And Shane Battier, JJ Redick. You have to go with, it's not just the championship teams. Chris Carrawell, who's now an assistant Duke coach. I really like to highlight the players who, he was their best player the year before they won their championship in 2010 with John Shire, and John, my boy, giving him the point, so I think John's on that team. Zion.
Yeah. Get your little JJ Redick in there, right?
Yeah, a little Redick. Yeah.
I just said JJ Redick. Zion, Okafor. I think that how many is that? Is that like 8 players? Right?
Yeah, we went to about 10 there.
That was some extras too. We got Brian Zubek in there.
Brian Zubek.
I actually read that Five Banners book. I just read the Five Banners book, the spanning Coach K's like 40 years, and it just took me back. And it literally, any Duke fan just highlights just all. It's almost like a soundtrack of my childhood and young adulthood of like all the Duke players that went through in the last 40 years. Cause I really just did grow up in the Coach K era, now led by John Shire, who is just a tremendous coach, tremendous individual, such integrity. And he's the perfect person to lead basketball, college basketball, in 2025.
Yeah.
I mean that with all my heart. Yeah.
Ken, we really appreciate you hopping on here. Appreciate all of your insight as well. I wish we had just a single camera on you watching Duke UNC, because I think that would be just a great show in and of itself.
Set that up next year.
Just set that up for you.
It is. I'm very emotional when I sat with Coach K at the Duke Kansas game, and I literally was getting in his eye line where he had to tell me, he literally had to tell me to sit down. He basically, he had it, and I was just jumping up and down, and he just like, hey, sit down, you're in my eye line. Look, he's not happy with me.
He doesn't even look like he wants you to be there, Ken.
No, he does not. He actually said, why are you sure you got the right seat? This is for important people. That's exactly what he told me. Yeah, we're good buddies. So all he does is roast me, which is like amazing. I get roasted by the GOAT every time I see him.
Oh, Ken, you're a legend, man. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game today.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Go
Ken.
Duke!
The best rivalry the sport has to offer. Duke, Carolina. intensity in this building right now. It's amazing.
Tyler's nose is bloody.
His shoe blew apart.
There is nothing finer than Duke Carolina.
These games are so damn good. Two great teams, great programs. I hope the good guys win at the end.
Well, we saw earlier in the show the highlights of Jay Will and his Blue Devils upsetting the Heels in 0-1. So let's bring in the man himself, Jay Williams, back home inside Cameron Indoor ahead of college game day. Jay Will, far be it from me or from us to tell you how big of a game this is to the players, the coaches, the fans that are involved. But can you remind everybody that's behind you as well the importance of this game and just what it means for the players that have played in it?
Well, first up, before I get into that, I just want to give a shout-out to my homegirl, Madeline here. She took a shot for $100,000. It didn't go in, but she gave one heck of a performance on Britney Spears. Shout out to you, Madeline. You're the best. Look, good, you're on. Guys, this game, you know, not that I remember my record that I'm 7-1 against North Carolina, because I do. Or that on senior night, I missed about 3 layups for having 46 points when I only ended up with 38 in the win. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, we're going to talk about this during the show. Obviously, you see teams like Michigan, Ohio State. Ohio State wins a championship, but Michigan wins that rivalry. Both teams have won championships, right? But when it comes down to it, there's nothing that means more than this game. This is a game that is inescapable. It's every single day as a former player on this campus, as a person who just lived here recently until a year ago, whether it was faculty members, people at the barbershop, people at Piggly Wiggly, it didn't matter where you were at. They were reminding you that you lost in North Carolina or somebody was talking trash to you. So when you play in a game like this today, it's the ultimate trash talking scenario for the fans and the players. And there's an intensity, a thickness in the air, and as Jay Billis always says, this game always delivers, and it does not matter about your record.
That's right, Jay. And one player that everybody's looking forward to seeing how they do is Cooper Flagg. What do you need to see out of him tonight as he cements himself in this rivalry?
I think he just needs to continue to be aggressive, continue to be different. And guys, I said this the other day, and I know this puts him in a rarefied air. And I watched Kyrie Irving for his 11 games here. I've watched Paolo Banchero. I watched Jabari Parker. I watched tape of Grant Hill. I watched tape of Danny Ferry. I watched things around and read articles about Dick Groat. And I'm willing to say this. He is the most complete and most skilled freshman in Duke basketball history. He is. He does it on the defensive end. His shot is something that's continuing to come around and evolve and mature. He's a de facto point guard. He's a great facilitator. He's a passer. You might say other guys had aspects of their game that were better than him, but as it relates to the complete package, I think you're seeing one of the most special players we've had in the game of basketball in a long time.
And we went back and dug up your all-time Duke team. You're obviously on it, Kyrie Irving, Grant Hill, Zion, and Christian Laettner. What can Cooper Flagg accomplish this year that would also put himself on that list for you?
Look, I've always said this, and you know, it's Grant Hill was able to do this, Laettner was able to do this. This goes back to the Caitlin Clark thing. I think there are great players in the game, and it's a team sport. But ultimately, to be in the rafters or to be considered one of the greatest ever, you got to win a chip, man. And I think about Shane Battier. I think about Nate James. I think about Chris Duhon. I think about all my teammates, Mike Dunleavy. We won a championship. And when you look up in the rafters and you see 2001 national championship, don't get it twisted. The only goal for Duke basketball this year is to be national champions in the year 2025, and it should be that way.
Much to the amusement of the fans behind you, Jay Will, the Tar Heels have not been the team that a lot of people thought they might be at the start of this season. You were on the call for the UNC Pitt game earlier in the week. The offense for UNC down the stretch of that game was on the verge of unwatchable. What did you come away from that game with as far as getting to see that team up close, and what do they need to do to try and put together an upset today?
Well, I think for North Carolina, I think at times they find themselves playing to the level of their competition, right? And a lot of people, I grew up a North Carolina fan to a degree, watching them play. Like, there's a standard of excellence that comes along with North Carolina that you know that's who they are. And this has typically been a team that has dominated you with points in the paint and second chance rebounds, right? And when they don't do that, then it puts an over-reliant stability on their guards and R.J. Davis. So R.J. Davis needs to be special tonight for them to get a win. And they need this win more than a lot of other teams in the ACC to get another quad one win. But the one thing I can tell you guys is even though Elliot Cadeau comes into this game shooting 30% from the three-point line, you can throw all those stats out the window. The one thing I know from being a player here is that you might go through scouting report, some guy might not have made his last 19 threes, and all of a sudden in this building, he makes 6 threes in a row. So you have to expect the unexpected for Duke tonight because North Carolina is going to give you their best punch. And they're a team that they have 3 players that are experienced in this rivalry. And that goes a long way, especially if they hit shots. They are still a dangerous team. They are still North Carolina.
Jay Will, we'll get you out of here on this. You've obviously made some excellent and enormous shots inside Cameron Indoor. Give us one right now. The only difference is you got a suit on instead of a jersey. So let's see what you got here off the dribble, Jay Will.
Wait, from right here?
Wherever you want. Wherever you want.
Right, all right. See, I got on the fitted suit today. I don't know how this is going to come out. Oh, that's off. That's off. Ah. Can I get one more?
One more. Give him one more. Give him one more.
Let's make some noise.
There we go. I feel good on this one. I got nothing for you this one.
Hey, Jay, we'll let you get back to work.
I'm saving it for the State Farm shot.
Okay,
I'm saving it for the State Farm shot. We're going to give away $19,000 today. I feel it.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Might have been the only time that Jay Will's ever gone 0 for 2 inside Cameron. I mean, the guy doesn't miss, so we give him one. But
and I think we can take credit for giving him a couple of warm-up shots when he ultimately does hit the one that he needs to hit.
Yeah, no.
You know?
We unfortunately are out of time, folks. That'll do it for us. By the way, a ton of great basketball for you to watch today, starting with a top 10 showdown between Florida and Tennessee in Knoxville. Remember how that one went last time those two met? It was a 30-point win for Florida. See if Tennessee can get some revenge. That's 12 Eastern time on ESPN. Thank you so much for watching Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. For Harry Lyles Jr., I'm Sam Ravech saying so long. We'll see you next week.
Woo pig.